Barbara and I got married in 73. And so for our honeymoon, we went to Willie's Picnic in 73 and stayed in a camper with some friends. And somehow I finagled, the only place you could have any shade was under the stage or on Waylon's bus. And so I can't remember who I knew, but somehow I finagled my way to get backstage, and I'm hanging out, and I'm kind of getting into some shade, and Barbara's back in the camper, and you're trying to get out of the heat for a little bit. I mean, it was blistering out there, and that's where I met Billy Joe for the first time, and I think I could have my dates wrong, but I think that's the scene where there's a little teardrop camper thing that Waylon was in, and Billy Joe was playing Willie Wonder and Gypsy and Me, and Waylon heard that song and said, "You got any more of those?" And Billy says, "Yeah, I got a sack full of these kind of songs," and that's kind of where it started. Years went on. I moved to Nashville in 1980, and after moving, I was here for a couple of weeks, and I started playing with Guy Clark on the road for 3 years or so. And after Guy lost his record deal, he went back playing solo again, and I was playing at this place called Cantrell's with some other guys, just a jam band throw together thing, and Eddie heard me playing and invited me to play with him and Billy, and we had a band, and that was the start of it. His van, Old Blue, had 350,000 miles on it already. When I got in the band, we had a platform in the back of it that there was a mattress on top of that. We loaded all the gear because we didn't want to have to pull a trailer, so we could put all the gear underneath the platform, and then there's a mattress. And so it was a crazy, huge band. It was me and Eddie both playing guitars, and Paco Ship played harmonica, and Reno Clean played bass, and Leland Waddell played drums. I think I've got all these names right. But anyway, there were too many of us, and Billy's van was just two captain's chairs in the front, and then Billy's old living room couch stuck behind. Then it's like one of those with the cushions were marshmallows and you just sink down and you're just floating around, and then somebody had to lay on that mattress. A couple of guys for us to all squeeze in there. A couple of guys had to be laying on that mattress above that was on the platform. And, the air conditioning in Texas to get back that far was pretty miserable. But actually, one time we got stranded down in Texas, and the guy that had been booking me down in Texas, we got there and a couple of gigs got canceled, and we're just floating around. And so I called this guy, was a friend of mine, promoter, and said, well, I'm playing with Billy Joe Shaver. Can you find us some gigs? And so he found a few things for us to do, and one of them we got stiffed. God, I might as well tell you this story. It's like we played loud and proud all night long, and we would try to stop, and they kept us playing. We kept playing over and over. People would not let us stop, and the place was jam packed, full of people, and we just went on and on. Finally, we quit, and so the promoter had been there at the door, and the guy that booked the gig for us had a clicker, and he'd been counting people that were coming in. He knew how much money was coming through the door. He went to the promoter and he said, "You got the money?" And the guy said, "I can't pay you." He said, "Yeah, but I know what kind of money's come through the door all night long." He says, "I can't pay you." And so Ed started following the guy as he's walking away, and the guy pulls open his coat. He's got a pistol in his belt. He says, "I can't pay you now, but I will pay you. And don't stop me, or there's gonna be trouble, and you're gonna get hurt." And he's like, "Okay, man." So he walks away. Well, in the meantime, we're winding up cords and packing up the trailer, or we didn't have a trailer. We're just trying to get our gear out, and these gals, I don't know how they knew we didn't get paid, but They had like 22 rifles, shotguns, some handguns. They laid them on the bar that was across over here. And they're saying, well, I guess you guys don't like it, do you? And we're saying, well, what do you mean don't? You know, we didn't know what there was to not like. We didn't know that we weren't getting paid at that point. And we were trying to figure out everything. And anyway, we went down the road and you know, Billy told us, he said, you know, if it was Waylon used to carry dynamite. And if somebody didn't pay, and he'd show you the dynamite and run his finger across it and throw it at the wall, and it would make a sound like a bullet or something. And he said he wouldn't hesitate to blow the ass end off a metal building honky tonk somewhere. Realized we weren't going to get paid, and so we went to my dad's apartment. My dad was out of town in East Texas, and so I knew the apartment was available, and so we went and we all slept on the floor, and took over my dad's apartment. And everybody got situated except for me, and I slept in the van. And the next day we're leaving, and Billy Joe has $100 bill, and he throws a $100 bill on the table. I said, what's that about? And he says, well, we got to leave something for your dad for letting us stay there. I said, Billy, we wouldn't have had to drive 3 hours out of the way to get to stay here for free. We could have gotten rooms with that $100. He said, yeah, but we got to leave something for your dad. And so I said, leave him a 10 spot. And he left him a $10 bill, and we left. But anyway, the end of the story is 3 days later or so, the promoter guy met us at a Denny's somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. He had all the money, paid us, and he had used the money to go do a dope deal. And we got paid everything that was coming to us. And it was a good payday for the whole band, too, because it was packed full of this place, you know. I don't have any idea what the guy's dope deal was or how he used the money to make it happen. I assume he just bought a bunch of dope and then turned it around, and, you know, I never knew the particulars of what happened, but we all got paid good.
Did you ever see any moments of Billy Joe, his mean side or his temper?
That's what's so amazing. I knew Billy starting in 84, 85 or so. I never saw Billy drunk. I never saw him smoke a joint, really. I would try to ride up front with him because he insisted on driving. He just didn't want anybody else to drive. And so I'm thinking, well, he's driving all this way. And so I was nervous a little bit. I just wanted to be up front. But Billy always talked in song titles to me. And we got somewhere, and Billy and I would room together because Eddie wanted to stay up all night and party, carry on. I woke up one morning, my guitar case was open, and as soon as if we went to bed at 4 o'clock, if it's 6 o'clock and the light hit the blinds, Billy's up and rocking. You know, I'm trying to get some more sleep with the covers over my head and stuff. Anyway, my guitar case was open. I had some lyrics I was working on, and Billy had walked across the parking lot to the Dollar General and got a red pencil and came back and wrote C minus needs work, SP, scratched out places. You know, this is 4 or 5 of my lyrics on a yellow pad in my guitar case. And
he's grading them?
Yeah, he graded my lyrics. And I was trying to be vegetarian. It's a ridiculous thing to think that you could try to follow a vegetarian diet in Texas. You know, it's like we're starting to get some barbecue up here, and Billy called me Gar, you know, for Gary, you know, Gar and the Gar fish, I guess. So, well, Gar, we got a McDonald's up here on the right. We're getting ready to stop, but good news for you is there's a nice pasture out beside of it. I loved him so much. He's like a family member. I've got this painting that he gave me of himself. It's down in the basement. I'll show it to you. And I got to produce his last record, Long in the Tooth, with Ray Kennedy, and Ray produced all those great Shaver records and stuff, and it was just wonderful. I went to Waco and stayed with him for a week in Waco, and wrote half of the songs on the record with him. Billy was the most paranoid person who's ever lived. He had, if you picture Billy's front door, there's a hasp lock that goes up this way, two of them going up that way, two more going into the side, and two more on the ground. And you close the hasp and you put a lock on it. And he carried the keys to all those locks on his belt. And then on the back door on the inside, it's one of these things, and you put a piece of wood, so if somebody breaks in, they still can't get in the door, get the door open. So that's on the back door. So every time we just go down the street to get a barbecue sandwich or something, he's got to unlock all those locks. He was convinced that somebody was trying to get, well, there's nothing to steal. A flat screen TV and some Billy Joe Shaver merch.
Did he have a real modest house?
Oh yeah, just a little tract house, there in Waco with the room that I was in. The shower was about as big as that guitar case. It's just. So Norm Macdonald called and wanted Billy to. This is a few years after we made the record, and Norm Macdonald was a big Billy Joe Shaver fan, and he said, "Come to Hollywood and be on my TV show." So Billy called me, and I flew from here, and he flew from. We met in Austin, and flew to Hollywood together, and there we were. They put us up at the W Hotel, and I've got a great picture of Billy on Hollywood Boulevard with all the stars behind him and stuff walking. It's great. And so we did the TV show, and it was just me strumming and Billy Joe singing the songs. Billy didn't try to play at that point. And so, we went and got something to eat, and I showed him where I landed. And it was right across the street from where I landed in Hollywood when I was 20 years old. I moved to Hollywood. I said, that's where I used to live, and now it was a piano bar or something. And we hung out, and we went up in the room and kind of figured out what songs we were going to play. So the next day we came and we did the songs, and Billy was he was more Billy Joe'd out than ever. And I don't know if you ever saw Norm Macdonald's TV show, but he had a little sidekick guy, and this sidekick guy had a little smaller than usual cowboy hat on. He looked like a howdy doody thing. He had a vest on him. And Billy just ripped into him. I mean, he made fun of him mercilessly throughout the whole thing, and Norm was going right along with it. And Billy was, giving Norm shit too. And so we played the songs that we had prepared to play, and then Norm kept saying, no, I want to hear George on the Fast Train. I want to hear Black Rose. I want to hear, he kept naming off titles. And it got to the point where I'm kicking off Billy Joe's songs in the wrong key because I don't remember, and he can't tell me what key it's in. He just knows he's going to sing it whenever I start playing. And we hung out with Norm way into the evening. And I was just so impressed with Norm Macdonald knowing the words to every Billy Joe Shaver third verse. I mean, he was into it.
I've heard him call him the greatest songwriter of all time.
Yeah, well, yeah, so would Willie. And Duvall, and, Billy's so special because he really was gifted. It's not like he was crafting something or the songs came to him. And when I first started writing with him, it was like I was amazed that he was as crafty as he was. He was very particular about having the rhymes be a certain way, and he was like a guy who had written songs at a publishing company or something. I never figured. I always thought that for Billy Joe Shaver, songs just appeared, And that's really the way it was. But when you really got down to shining up the songs and making them be what they're going to be, um, he was a craftsman as well as a savant.
Did he ever talk about the to Narrows of the Harpeth to kill himself?
He told me the story. The way Billy talks about it is that he just kind of gotten to the end of his rope, and he found this place. I guess it's out in Dixon somewhere, out in the country, and you get up on a high ledge and you can look out over. And he told himself that he was just going to jump off of that, kill himself. And he started walking up there, and Old Chunk of Coal came to him. By the time he got up there, he had Old Chunk of Coal, and he couldn't kill himself. He had Old Chunk of Coal, you know. That's a real capsulized version of it, but that's the way he says it happened, It's like he was such a storyteller that you wonder, well, is that really what happened? But, as magical as he was, I'll accept anything. I was crazy about him. And when it was just me and him, it's like he was like an older brother, or just we're pals and everything. If a third person came into the room or into the situation we were in, he'd turn into Billy Joe Shaver immediately. And Delbert used to say, yeah, Billy Joe's acting like Billy Joe Shaver again today. It's like, but, and it's like somehow he decided, but he always wore the same denim shirt and jeans, and he had that belt that was made out of a horse halter that Brenda had made for him. He wore that belt for 40 years.
The great buckle.
Yeah, it just the one that the little brass thing, and that was his dress, and I stayed with him for a week in Waco, and when I came out and I looked out on the line, and there were like 4 identical denim shirts hanging outside. It's like he had it figured out. Billy Joe and I had a song called The Get-Go. It's been that way since the get-go. And Willie recorded a version with Jamie Johnson, and then we had Billy Joe's version, and we got Willie to sing on Billy Joe's version. And Willie came to sing on it, and he just did it one time, and it was over with. And Willie was leaving, and he walked out the door, and he came back, and he said, just so you know, if you never need anything from me for Billy Joe, don't hesitate to call me. Anything you need for Billy Joe. And it's like, all right. Yeah. Those guys loved each other. Everybody was crazy about Billy Joe. It's like, but the odd thing for me is like, I never saw him crazy high. I never saw him do anything weird. I never saw any of the bad side of him. The bad, mean, crazy Billy Joe that you'd heard rumors about and whatever. Never. Well, but weird shit happened to him. It's like this. He had a van that was at the place in Waco, and somebody poured sugar in his gas tank. And it's that kind of shit that would happen to him randomly that you could almost understand why he was as paranoid as he was. But the whole thing with those locks on the doors, that was just beyond nuts, But man, he was so paranoid that we'd be talking on the phone, and we have a song idea, and we were throwing around a song idea back and forth. He says, Gar, we better shut up. You know how they are in there in Nashville. This thing will be on the radio next week if we don't quit talking about it.